Hello everyone, welcome to the 63rd session on Current Affairs 2020 Economy and Banking Concepts. So let us start with the first question of the day. Which among the following states has deployed a COVID-19 tracking platform developed by National Association of Software and Services Companies NASSCOM Task Force? Now, if you look at this tracking platform, COVID-19 tracking platform, and that too developed by NASSCOM Task Force, how is it different from the existing dashboard or platform we have available by the Government of India? If you look at the existing platform, it is mostly talking about the present data scenario. That means how many people are tested, how many people are positive, how many people have recovered the disease, and how many people passed away. However, if you look at this particular case, this task force has been formed by IT experts of different IT giants like Microsoft, then Google. So number of IT giants and their representatives came and formed a task force, and they have developed a platform which is based on artificial intelligence platform. So what happens when the data is fed to the platform? It's not only shows the present scenario, it also helps the government to predict that in coming days how many more patients may get infected, then how many beds are required for the preparation of future. At present, if you have heard and if you go through the newspaper, many a times we come to know that the government or the state governments are making arrangements for COVID patients. Some 200 bed hospital or 500 bed hospitals, these are set up by state governments. But as such, when these are developed, there is based on some understanding or some guesswork. Whereas this particular platform will give you a real-time and continuous predictions that how much expansion should be done in terms of medical facilities, bed facilities, how many people may get infected. So remember, it's an AI-based platform, and in short, if I say it will help the state and the central government to predict certain outbreaks and advance medical care administration based on the data fed to the system. Now, this particular system or this particular platform has been first adopted by Telangana and then later adopted by Karnataka. You can easily understand both Hyderabad and Bangalore being the IT hub of the nation, of the country. You can easily understand the connection between NESCOM and that government. So the answer for this question is option number 4, Telangana and Karnataka. So first it was implemented in Telangana, then it is in Karnataka. This is slightly different than the existing COVID-19 dashboard. Now, the CMs from the exams perspective, we should revise the name of the Chief Minister. Karnataka B.S. Yedurappa. You have heard of the name number of times. And for Telangana, Sri K. Chandrasekhar Rao. And for Bihar, it is Nitish Kumar. Okay. Karnataka B.S. Yedurappa. For Telangana, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, and for Bihar it is Nitish Kumar. Alright, answer is option number 4. Let us move to the next question. Wajid Khan, who passed away recently, was obviously you know that the answer is a music director, famous combination Sajid Wajid, you have heard of. They gave music for movies like Ek Tha Tiger, Wanted, and in fact IPL theme song was also performed by Wajid Khan and Sajid. So the answer for this question is a music director. Option number 3. Actually, Wazid Khan was infected by COVID-19, and because of this COVID-19 there are multiple organs. It is suspected that multiple organs like heart and kidney failure took place because of COVID-19. So, and he passed away in the month of somewhere in the month of June, first June, 2nd June, when he passed away, right? So answer is music director. With which space agency has the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, partnered to host a deep space ground station that will support human spaceflight mission to moons, Mars and beyond? Now if you look at the question is self-explanatory. There is something NASA is going to set up, and to do that it has partnered with somebody. The purpose of setting up this thing is support human spaceflight mission to moon, Mars and beyond. Actually this moon, Mars and beyond, if you look at or go beyond Mars, this particular area is called deep space. That means deeper into the space. Now what is this deep space ground station? So this is an image of a deep space ground station. It's not in space. It is not located in space. Rather it is on Earth. That's why it's a ground station. But the objective of this deep space ground station is to keep communication with the satellites which are at farthest of the position and deep space. And for that, as of now, there are 3 such ground stations are there. I've shown one image here. This is in Canberra, Australia. The 2 other stations are, one is in Madrid, Spain, and the other is in California, USA. So repeating it once again, at present there are at 3 locations. One is Canberra, Australia. The image is shown over here. A similar another station is located in Madrid, Spain, and the third one is in California, USA. They are kind of located in 120-degree rotation of the Earth, and they are orientation, so that it covers a total of 360-degree, so that it ensures that even at all the time of the day, wherever is the location of a spacecraft, it is in communication with at least one of the 3 ground stations. However, this is not, they are not going to ask into that much of nitty-gritty in the bank exam. But what happens is, when it comes to more precision communication, and NASA wanted to ensure that further strengthening of the system is required, so they tied up with South African Nation Space Agency, SANSA, South African National Space Agency, SANSA, tied up with them, and they are going to set up the 4th such deep space ground station. So there are at present 3 existing deep space ground stations are there, and after tying up with South African National Space Agency, they are going to set up the 4th such station. Alright, it will be set up in Cape Town. The location is in Cape Town, South Africa. The rest all names you can understand, these are space research organization or agency of each country. Roscosmos is the space research agency of Russia. Roscosmos, State Corporation for Space Activities. Roscosmos is of Russia. Okay, let us move to the next question. Acclaimed HIV researcher Professor Quraisha Abdul Karim has been awarded one of the top science prize, namely Christopher Marriott Prize 2020, for her work for the Durban-based Center for the AIDS Program of Research in South Africa. The short form is given CAPRISA. The prize has been instituted by. So this is actually the options you look at, these are Switzerland, Germany, France, Spain and Norway. This is actually the highest science award of that country. The answer is France. Institut de France every year, Institut de France, Christophe and Rudolf Merixo Foundation, every year they go for this award, which comprises of $500,000 US, and it is the most prestigious award in France, and it is mainly targeted, this particular award is mainly targeted to support into the infectious disease in developing countries. Let me repeat it. This particular award, Christophe Merix Prize, is an annual award given by France, and it is hosted, or the prize is instituted by France, and the objective of this award is to support into infectious diseases in developing countries. So the award is given to Professor Qureisha Abdul Karim, because she has developed some product like a topical gel, which is going to reduce the chance of infection of AIDS in the women. It is going to reduce that chance by a significant amount, and that's why she has been given this award. The name of the presidents are given. For Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel. For Germany, the highest, or the head of the state is called Chancellor. For France, President is Emmanuel Macron. Spain, Pedro Sanchez. And Norway is Erna Solberg. Norway, Erna Solberg. Okay. I hope you could take it down. Alright, let us go to the next question. According to the latest ranking of global startup ecosystems by Startup Link, with a score of 5.698 to its name, India has been ranked 12th, 15th, 20th, 23rd, 30th. Now, a startup ecosystem means how friendly is the environment to get started with a new company, a startup company. Now, in terms of that, we have heard a number of schemes by Government of India, Startup India, Stand Up India, and there are a lot of other summits or maybe conferences are also taking place. However, if you look at the ranking, India has been ranked at 23rd position. As a country, India has been ranked in terms of startup ecosystem is thus 23rd position. Then which countries are in the top positions? The first position is assumed by USA, followed by UK, and third position is Israel. So the environment to get started with a startup company is best in USA, followed by UK, and then Israel. And the Startup Link also published a list of cities for the same startup ecosystem. So in terms of cities, there are two Indian cities which comes in the top 20. One is Bangalore at 14th position and New Delhi at 15th position. So in terms of cities, these two cities are in top 20 position. So please take it down. Bangalore at 14th position and New Delhi at 15th position. Alright, if you look at in this environment, there are some of the countries. For India, it has been a degradation in the rank. India has been reduced by 6th position. Whereas countries like Brazil and China, they are the top gainers. In the list, they gain the maximum points and they move to a higher position, Brazil and China. But for India, it's a slippage from the last year ranking from 2019 to 2020. It has slipped by 6 positions. So answer for this question is option number 4, 23rd. The rates of interest on bank loans for the priority sector will be as per directives issued by which department from time to time. Now, what is this priority sector or priority sector lending, PSL? There are different sectors in the economy, starting from say agriculture, or say, I'm not talking about primary, secondary or tertiary sector. I'm talking about subsectors. Like we have agriculture, mining, or maybe hospitality or aviation. So there are various areas. Now, from the bank's perspective, bank being a commercial bank, being a professional entity, would always like to forward a loan to some area or some sector where the chance of return is more. But on the other side, if you look at, there are sectors in a country like India, particularly in a country like India, agriculture, where majority of the people are employed in agriculture sector. So unless there is sufficient availability of credit present in the agriculture sector, it will be quite difficult to make the sector grow. So similarly, we have micro, small and medium enterprises, MSME. To generate employment, one of the most important focus area of the government is MSME sector, and you have seen in the recent scheme announced by Government of India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, a lot of focus has been given to MSME sector. So in the same side, government and RBI wants the bank to keep sufficient amount of loan in these sectors which will help the economy to grow. So that's why government brought this idea along with RBI that there is a priority sector and the banks must lend certain amount of their total lending to those priority sectors. Okay, so who decides the priority sectors? Government and RBI together decides the priority sectors and gives the directive to the banks. For example, if you look at a commercial bank like PSU banks or private banks, the target for priority sector lending is 40%. That means whatever is the total loan forwarded by a commercial bank, out of that 40% has to be forwarded in the priority sector. Now, which all sectors comes under priority sector? What are those sectors? Is it fixed? No, it changes time to time. Way back in, after independence, there were time when the priority sector was heavy industries. Then there were time where priority sector was information technology. And then time to time, this priority sector changes. At present, the priority sectors are, please take it down, questions are asked from this particular area: agriculture, MSME, MSME stands for micro, small and medium enterprise, export credit, credit for the purpose of export. So agriculture, number 2 MSME, export credit, education, housing, social infrastructure, renewable energy and others. Let me repeat it once again: agriculture, MSME, export credit, education, housing, social infrastructure, renewable energy and others. Alright, so now these targets, how much are the targets as we discussed? So if you look at for commercial banks, the target for priority sector lending is 40% of ANBC, adjusted net balance credit. ANBC stands for adjusted net balance credit. Okay, for foreign banks with like less than 20 branches, they are given a provision to maintain on phased manner. They have asked to reach that target of 40% in phased manner by 2020, and other foreign banks also this has to be maintained 40%. But for RRBs, regional rural banks and small banks, this target is 75%. Okay, let me repeat it once again. So in short, if I say the target for priority sector lending for commercial banks, both PSU and private, is 40% of ANBC. For small banks, it is 75% of ANBC. And for RRB, it is 75% of outstanding advance, total outstanding advance. Now coming back to this question, the rate of interest on bank loans for the priority sector lending will be as per directives issued by department from time to time. Department of Banking Regulation, Department of Cooperative Bank Regulation. See, you can look at the option. This is precisely for the regulation of cooperative banks. So it cannot be the answer. Department of Communication. No, Department of Communication actually is a department under RBI, which is responsible to bringing out all the notice and changes and everything. So they bring all the notice and documents in Department of Communication. If you visit the website of RBI, and you will see that all the notification comes, and bottom of that it is generally signed by General Manager, Department of Communication. Department of Economic and Policy Research is not the answer. Department of External Investment and Operations, definitely not the answer. The answer is Department of Banking Regulation. Department of Banking Regulation. Now, please understand, there are two types of departments if you look at in RBI. One is a Department of Regulation and the other is a supervisor. Department of Supervision and Department of Regulation. So I'm sure you heard of a name called BFS, Board for Financial Supervision. The Board for Financial Supervision, under that there are two bodies, Department of Banking Supervision and Department of Non-Banking Supervision. Similarly, for the regulation also we have Department for Banking Regulation, Department for Non-Banking Regulation and Department for Cooperative Bank Regulation. Look at the two words, one is supervisory function and the other is a regulatory function. So supervisory function is like they observe, they supervise, they oversee whether everything is going as per standards or as per rules and regulations or not. And if they find some changes are required, they give the input to Department of Banking Regulation and then they impose those guidelines. Some of the functions of Department of Banking Regulation, if we see, licensing, branch expansion, maintenance of SLR, reconstruction and liquidation of assets. So a new license has to be achieved or cancellation of license, interest rate for PLR. So all these are done by Department of Banking Regulation. On the other side, Department of Banking Supervision, which is under BFS, is mostly to see that whether everything is done properly or not. So to do that, they conduct annual audit of the banks, and that audit is based on a model which is known as CAMEL. It's an international model. It is practiced in number of other countries. India has made a little change. RBI has made a little change into it. It's called CAMEL. So what is CAMELs? It is it's a model for audit performed by RBI in various banks. Now who does it? it is done by Department of Banking Supervision. So they go and perform the audit. So here, for the exams perspective, please understand the full form of CAMELS is important. C stands for capital adequacy, which is related to CAR, capital adequacy ratio. Asset quality in the sense, is it a risky asset or is it a safe asset, whether proper check has been done while forwarding the loan. Management, earning, L for liquidity, system and control. So this is what CAMEL stands for. Please remember the full form: capital adequacy, asset quality, management, earning, liquidity, system and controls. Alright, so remember, there are few questions which can be also devised from this particular area. As long as licensing is concerned, branch expansions are concerned, asset reconstruction or liquidation is concerned, maintenance of SLR is concerned, so everything is regulated by Department of Banking regulation for all types of banks. That means for commercial banks, for small banks, for private banks, for RRBs, and for cooperative banks there is a separate Department of Cooperative Bank Regulation. I have come across this particular question many a times, that who regulates RRBs? So people come up with the answer whether it is RBI or NABARD. So let me clarify it clearly, and this has been clarified in our earlier sessions also. So if you look at, as long as supervising is concerned, RRBs are supervised by NABARD. RRBs are supervised by NABARD. So Department of Banking Supervision looks after the supervision of all the commercial banks except RRBs, whereas RRBs are supervised by NABARD. But when it comes to regulation of RRBs, it comes under the Department of Banking Regulation only, right? Let us move to the next question. So answer for this question is option number 1. Which of the following organizations will estimate the GDP of India? Central Statistical Office, CSO, Geological Survey of India, Anthropological Survey of India, National Sample Survey Organization, or NSSO. So it's a very easy question. Which of the following organization will estimate? From the options you can easily say the answer is CSO, Central Statistical Office, CSO. You may have some confusion why not it is National Sample Survey Organization. In fact, earlier there were separate existence of CSO and NSSO, but now there is no separate existence of NSSO. It has been merged with CSO. So they are responsible for estimating all data related to GDP, industrial production, index for industrial production, agricultural production. So economic surveys related to like demographics or economic survey related inputs. So everything is performed by CSO. So there is no separate existence of NSSO at present. So rest two options are definitely not related with the question. Geological Survey of India, you can easily understand it is under Ministry of Mines, and they are mostly responsible for surveys related to creation and update of national geoscientific data, then mineral resources assessment, environmental surveys, glaciology, seismotechnomics. So all this analysis related to art or maybe the globe, we can say art, is performed by Geological Survey of India, one of the very old institution in India. And Anthropological Survey of India, you can understand it is related with anthropology. So the answer for this question is option number 1. The Director General of CSO is Dr. Shailja Sharma. Director General of CSO is Dr. Shailja, S-H-A-I-L-J-A, Shailja Sharma, S-H-A-R-M-A, Shailja Sharma. Okay, let's move to the next question. RBI conducts long-term repo operations for into LTRO. Now, what is a LTRO? A repo stands for repurchase agreement. Normally, repo means under this facility, a commercial bank borrows loan or money from RBI for a short-term basis, mostly on overnight basis. But because of the recent scenario in the last 6-7 months, if you look at the recent scenario, initially it was the economic slowdown, then followed by this COVID-19 pandemic. Because of this scenario, the availability of the credit in the system, in the banking system, was very less. So to give an impetus to the growth of the economy, RBI introduced this LTRO. So it's a provision under which a commercial bank can borrow money from RBI. We discussed this in our earlier classes also in detail, so I'll not get into that much of detail now. How is it different from a conventional loan, or how is it different from a repo loan? In LTRO, a commercial bank can borrow from RBI at repo rate, which is generally the lowest among all the options available with RBI. But the time for borrowing is higher, 1 year to 2 years. So that is like a common difference with a conventional loan and repo loan. So in other loans, if a bank borrows from RBI at MSF or bank rate, the rate of interest is generally more than repo. But if RBI borrows under, a commercial bank borrows under LTRO, the rate of interest is less and it is equal to repo rate. But unlike repo rate, where the period of borrowing, the term of borrowing is very small, in case of it, name itself says it is long term. So that helps the commercial banks to borrow a cheaper money for longer period of time. So you can easily understand what are the objectives. Obviously, improving monetary transmission will increase because of this facility. So one is true, making available durable liquidity at reasonable cost to banks. Absolutely right. Durable liquidity because it is a long term. So the liquidity is available not for 5 days, 6 days. It is for 1 year, 2 year at reasonable cost, because bank is borrowing the money at repo rate, which is lowest. Augment credit flow to productive sectors. Almost very synonymous. That means to increase credit flows to the productive sectors where there's a need of fund, where the sector is growing. So there the fund has to be mobilized. So the answer for this question is option number 5. 1, 2 and 3. Let us move to the next question. Unified Payment Interface is a payment system launched by which of the following companies or organization? The answer is option number 1, National Payment Corporation of India. You can easily remember one thing. Almost all the retail payment operations performed, whatever platform it is launched by NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India. Almost all retail payment options, starting from IMPS, immediate payment system. Then if you look at Beam app, or maybe #99, or maybe you talk about other payment applications, like we have Aadhaar enabled payment system, or Aadhaar based payment systems. All these are introduced, even RuPay card, RuPay payment system, RuPay payment gateway, online payment gateway. So all these are brainchild of NPCI. The NPCI CEO is Dilip Asbe. CCI stands for Competition Commission of India. This is a body where who gives the permission and looks after the friendly competition environment in the country. We have one question in the presentation where we'll see the role of Competition Commission of India. Presently, the chairman of CCI is Ashok Kumar Gupta. Ashok Kumar Gupta. Okay. Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited, BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. The CEO is Nalin Singhal. You can easily understand that these two are no way related with UPI. The answer could be either RBI and NPCI, but RBI is the umbrella organization. Under RBI, under supervised, NPCI is responsible for introducing all such facilities. So answer for this question is option number 1. When the Reserve Bank of India increases the SLR, the ultimate beneficiaries are. If I recall, what is SLR? SLR stands for Statutory Liquidity Ratio. In other words, it is the percentage of NDTL a commercial bank need to keep it with itself in terms of liquid cash, gold, or government security. Now, if you understand this, you can easily go on answering this question. Suppose a commercial bank is maintaining 18% SLR of 18% is of NDTL, net demand and time liability. So whatever money is deposited to the bank, of that 18 rupees the bank is going to keep with itself in terms of liquid cash. But then if it keeps it in liquid cash, bank is not going to earn anything. So in most cases, banks prefer to keep the SLR in terms of government security. So if the bank increases government security and if the SLR is increased, commercial banks will never get benefited, because if they get 100 rupees as deposit, now it was 18 rupees at SLR, if it is increased to 20, the banks will be left with lesser amount of money for lending. So the earning of the bank will go down. Let me repeat it once again. There were total deposit of 100 rupees for an example, and presently the SLR is 18 rupees. So I can think of that the remaining is available for lending, but now SLR increases, goes to 20, so less amount will be available for lending. So commercial banks are not going to get benefited because their earning is going to reduce. Rural banks are also not going to get benefited because SLR rule is same for commercial banks as well as rural banks. It is not that regional rural banks, for regional rural banks the SLRs are different. Corporate companies, definitely not. How can a corporate company get benefited if they are not having easy access to loan? If the SLR is increased, banks have lesser amount of money to lend as a loan. That means the corporate companies are also having less access to credit, so which will hamper their expansion plan. The answer is central government, option number 4, because as I said, most of the banks prefer to keep SLR in terms of government security. So if the SLR is increased, that means banks are going to invest more with the government, so money moves to the government. So ultimately the investment is made mostly into security market, which is obviously controlled by government. So the ultimate beneficiary here becomes central government, which is option number 4. Which city hosted the 3rd World Conference on Access to Medical Products in 2019? Hyderabad, Pune, Bangalore, Mumbai, New Delhi. World Conference on Access to Medical Products actually organized jointly by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and WHO, and it was organized in New Delhi. The objective of this particular conference is to explore new approaches in the innovation landscape in medical products for achieving a bigger goal, like something like India has to meet the target of SDG 2030. SDG stands for Sustainable Development Goal 2030. By 2030, the goals of SDG, which is set by United Nations, India has to meet that goal, and to do that, health is one of the important area and challenging area for the country. So the objective of this conference was to find out or to explore new possibilities and approaches, technology, innovation, so that the healthcare sector can be improved and renovated to meet those targets. So the answer for this question is option number 5. Remember, it is an event of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and WHO jointly conducted. The Minister of Health and Family Welfare is Dr. Harsh Vardhan. Dr. Harsh Vardhan. Who among the following is winner of the 2019 Syed Modi International Badminton Championship in the women's category? In the women's category, the champion is Carolina Marin of Spain. She defeated Pithayaporn Chavan of Thailand. So she is the champion and Pithayaporn Chavan is the runners-up in Syed Modi International Badminton Championship in women's category. Answer is option number 4. Which among the following nations navies participated in the mine countermeasure exercise MINEX 2019? So you can understand it's a joint defense exercise or military exercise, but it is as precisely mentioned, it is mine countermeasure exercise. So that means it is an exercise to encounter mines. It could be land mine or it could be a sea mine, but this was particularly done for the mines in the oceans. So this exercise was performed by India and Japan. So MINEX 2019 is an exercise between Indian Navy and Japan Navy. Indian Navy and Japan Navy, right? Option number 3 is the answer. In 2020, there are other exercises also performed. So you can take it down, the exercises which has been performed, which are performed in 2020. Exercise Indradhanush. Exercise Indradhanush V 2020 performed in February between Indian Air Force and British Royal Air Force. Between Indian Air Force and British Royal Air Force. Okay. Exercise Ajeya Warrior, AJEYA. Exercise Ajeya Warrior 2020. Exercise Ajeya Warrior 2020 performed in February between Indian Army and UK Army. Between Indian Army and UK Army. Okay. Then exercise Sahyog Kaizin, Sahyog, SOHYOG, SOHYOG, Sahyog Kaizin, KAIJIN, Kaizin, performed in January, and that is also between Japan and India, but that was Japan Coast Guard and Indian Coast Guard. Japan Coast Guard and Indian Coast Guard. And exercise Sampriti, SAMPRITI, exercise Sampriti, between Indian Army and Bangladesh Army. So these are the 4 exercises which were performed before COVID pandemic in 2020. So let me quickly repeat it once again. MINEX 2019 between Indian Navy and Japan Navy. Indradhanush 2020 between Indian Air Force and British Royal Air Force. Ajaya Warrior 2020 between Indian Army and UK Army, that is British Army. And exercise Sahyog Kaizin is Indian Coast Guard and Japan Coast Guard. So in nutshell, if you simply remember, by 2020 there are exercises performed only with 3 countries. One is with Japan, another is UK, and third is Bangladesh. Rest all are either cancelled or postponed. India has been ranked in the 2019 Global Diplomacy Index released by the Sydney-based Lowy Institute. The rank is 12, option number 3. Global Diplomacy Index released by Sydney-based Lowy Institute, the rank is 12, option number 3. Which among the following nations has hosted the 13th South Asian Games? 13 South Asian Games hosted by Nepal in December 2019. However, it was scheduled earlier and then it has been postponed, and it was conducted by Nepal. The President Vidya Devi Bhandari inaugurated the games and program, and it was performed in Nepal. Option number 3. The next South Asian Game 2021 will be hosted by Pakistan. As of now, this is what was decided, that the next South Asian Game 2021 will be hosted by Pakistan. Right? Let us move to the next question. According to the Indian Corruption Survey conducted by the local circles and Treasury International India, which among the following is the most corrupt state in India, which 78% people in the state having admitted to paying bribes? So Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh. The answer is Rajasthan, where almost 78% people admitted that at some point of time they have paid bribe. So answer is option number 4. Ashok Gehlot is the Chief Minister of Rajasthan. Mr. Ashok Gehlot, Chief Minister of Rajasthan. Who among the following persons have authored a book titled The Legacy of Militancy in Punjab, Long Road to Normalcy? Kirti Roy and Ravish Kumar, Inderjit Singh, J.G. and Dona Suri, Vijay Singh and Trupti Desai, Tista Stetalwad and Sudhir Chaudhary, Shekhar Gupta and Nidhi Razdan. So, you can see most of the names, they are from media background. The answer for this question is Inderjit Singh, and Donna Suri, option number 2. Ravish Kumar, you heard of the name, journalist, recipient of Raman Magsaysay Award in 2019. Raman Magsaysay Award, one of the most prestigious award in Asia. Raman Magsaysay Award received by Ravish Kumar, journalist of NDTV. Sudhir Chaudhary, editor-in-chief of Zee News. Shekhar Gupta, again of journalist of NDTV. Nidhi Razdan, NDTV journalist. And Trupti Desai is a social activist, and she is one of the forefront protester for Sabarimala protest, where women are not allowed to enter, or maybe if you consider Hazi Ali Dargah, where women are not allowed to enter. So she is one of the activists who is a forefront protester for women right, and they should be allowed to enter this setup. Alright, so answer for this question is option number 2, Indrajit Singh and Donna Suri. The legacy of militancy is Punjab, long road to normalcy. The first international conference on landslide risk reduction and resilience was held in. From the question itself, you can understand this is related to landslide risk reduction and resilience. There are a lot of deaths takes place across the world due to landslide and similar other activities. And if you actually connect the dots, you will see that one of the main reasons behind landslides are deforestations and environmental degradation, which causes erratic rain or cloud burst and heavy or unscheduled rains, and also the holding capacity of the soils are also degraded because of the deforestation issue. Now, the purpose of this particular conference, you can easily understand to how to encounter this type of incidents and how to have a better management or disaster management system to overcome or to face this type of natural disasters. Now, this particular event was held in New Delhi and organized by National Institute of Disaster Management. It was organized by National Institute of Disaster Management, NIDM, National Institute of Disaster Management. Answer is option number 3, New Delhi. Which among the following Indian states will host the 2023 Men's Hockey World Cup? Very important question. Please remember, this type of questions are asked, and that too related to hockey, which generally we overlook. But then questions are asked from this type of areas. Men's Hockey World Cup will be hosted by Odisha. 2013 Men's Hockey World Cup will be hosted in Odisha. Option number 3 is the answer. Which country was elected to the UNESCO's World Heritage Committee for the first time during the 22nd General Assembly for the states parties to the World Heritage Convention in Paris? So UNESCO, as you know, United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, its headquarters is in Paris, and under that we have Heritage Committee. This committee, World Heritage Committee, is the final authority who will decide which will come into the list of World Heritage Site. Now, among the options, answer is Saudi Arabia, and they have become the member of World Heritage Committee for the first time. There are other committees also, other states also, but the first time who has become a member is Saudi Arabia. Option number 2. Okay. Which Indian automobile company formed a joint venture with the US-based automaker Ford Motor Company for buying a 51% stake in the Indian unit? We know that Ford is one of the largest automobile company in the world based out of USA, but in Indian unit there will be a joint venture, and one of the Indian company is going to acquire 51% stake in the Indian unit of Ford Motor Company. The answer is Mahindra and Mahindra, option number 3. If you remember, in one of our earlier question we talked about Competition Commission of India. Now this is where their role becomes very vital. So whenever some merger takes place, for example, in telecom sector, few months back, we know that Vodafone and Idea got merged. So largely in India there are 3 players. One is Jio, second is Airtel, and the third one is Idea and Vodafone. Now when this type of merger takes place, there is a chance of getting a monopoly in the market. For example, at present if you see, suppose Jio and Airtel gets merged, just imagine. Now the entire majority of the market share will be with one company. So they will be dictating the terms and conditions. Whatever they want to do in the market, they would like to do so. And as a customer will not have an alternative to choose. So this situation may lead to monopoly. So whenever this type of merger is going to take place, it has to get an approval from Competition Commission of India, so that there is no monopoly in the system. So this particular joint venture was initiated in 2019, and recently in February 2020, Competition Commission of India gave the approval for this, and that is why it is there in your PPT. In this question is there. This is an important one. So an Indian company is acquiring the USA based company's majority share. So answer is Mahindra and Mahindra. CEO of Mahindra and Mahindra, Anand Mahindra, Mr. Anand Mahindra. CEO of Maruti Suzuki, Kenichi Ayukawa. Kenichi, Kenichi, Ayukawa, Ayukawa. Okay. Tata Motors CEO is Gunter Butschek, Guenter Butschek. Hindustan Motor, actually a company is not that large at present, but earlier it used to be a very big company who used to manufacture ambassador cars. But they have stopped manufacturing ambassador cars, only few special models are manufactured. However, they are into manufacturing of small trucks in the brand name of Wiener, like we have Tata Ace. Similar type of small trucks are manufactured by Hindustan Motors in the name of Wiener. Ashok Leyland is one of the largest automobile company in our country, and having a global presence also for truck and bus manufacturing. The CEO of Ashok Leyland is Vipin Sondhi. Vipin, V-I-P-I-N, Vipin Sondhi, S-O-N-D-H-I, Vipin Sondhi. Alright, so answer is Mahindra and Mahindra. On the occasion of the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, who among the following persons has been conferred with the most effective Swachhata Ambassador Award in 2019? there, since 2014, time to time, different persons, different celebrities are scientists, engineers, politicians are appointed as Swachhata ambassadors. You can name, Akshay Kumar, Priyanka Chopra, or maybe Manisha Koirala in earlier days, then Amitabh Bachchan, Muhammad Kaif. Lot of people are appointed as Swachhata ambassador. But among them, according to the government, the most effective ambassador award goes to Sachin Tendulkar, because he has effectively used his image and worked into this area to create the awareness and bring more people into the platform. So the answer is Sachin Tendulkar, option number 2. Under the new strategic disinvestment process approved by Union Cabinet, which among the following has been made the nodal department for the strategic stake sale of select public sector undertaking? If you would have heard that in the budget which was made in the month of February, Government of India thought of number of disinvestment. They wanted to sell the stake of number of PSUs. For some of those PSUs, they wanted to sell a part of the stake, and for some of the PSUs, they want to sell the entire stake and make it a private company. To name a few, I can say Air India is one, and BPCL, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, is one. But to move ahead with the policy, they have made a nodal department. In fact, they have renamed on one of the earlier department as a new one, and who is responsible for this particular function. So it clearly says, you can easily guess, it clearly says strategic state sale of select public sector undertaking. The answer is option number 3, Department of Investment and Public Asset Management. Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, in short DIPAM, D-I-P-A-M. DIPAM is the answer, option number 3. This is under Ministry of Finance. This is under Ministry of Finance, DIPAM. Which of the following has become the first state in India to launch a policy on pneumoconiosis detection, prevention, control and rehabilitation? Pneumoconiosis is a disease caused by inhalation of a very fine dust particle, and it causes damage of the lung, and sometimes it is also, this disease is also termed as black lung, because the condition of the lungs becomes so pathetic that it is named as black lung. So people who work in coal mines or maybe asbestos factories, silicosis or similar type of silicon factories, they are prone to this type of disease because of fine dust particle, particularly like coal dust and asbestos dust, they inhale and that and accumulates in their lung. So this, among the options, the Rajasthan government has recognized it as one of the epidemic because of the number of people are getting infected in that state. And based on that, they have brought a separate policy in the sense to support their family, to give some pension if somebody is getting affected by this disease, to support the education of their family children. So a written and a well devised policy has been brought. Detection, prevention, control and rehabilitation. So based on that, the answer is Rajasthan. Chief Minister of Rajasthan, Ashok Gehlot. Right? Option number 3 is the answer. Who among the following persons has been appointed Chief Executive Officer of the government's citizen-centric online platform, My Government India? So you might have seen regular mails keeps on coming in to your register email ID. If you register to this particular platform, My Government India, so there are mails about various schemes to the government, various facilities, various initiatives of the government, that communications are made. So it's a platform which talks about whatever initiatives and schemes are taken by the government of India. Answer for this question is Abhishek Singh. Option number 4, Abhishek Singh. Thank you.